Coming up on this episode,
I just believe in one less God than you is not an argument. It's a statement of fact.
all he has to do in order to disarm this statement is to give a reason he has for not believing in one of those gods, which is not equally applicable to his gods.
What he's complaining about here is literally logic. He's complaining about us using parity of reasoning.
What we are saying is, since there are many wrong answers, you should be able to show how a right answer is demonstrably different from all the wrong answers.
So you're saying that we have a whole lot of butt on the channel. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I am saying that. Hello, Internet. This is Red Angel Sophia here with another installment of Tearing Down Terrible Videos Together, where each time I get together with a guest and together we get a video with terrible messaging from somewhere on the internet, and together we critique it and expose what is so terrible about the video's messaging. And today I have a very special guest on this show. Give a warm welcome to Zoe Vexed.
Hello. How are you, Fred?
I'm doing very well. Tell us about yourself.
I am a small YouTuber. I am a trans content creator. I also cover politics, and I've definitely discussed like atheism and religion. I have an interest in philosophy. My pronouns are she, her, and I am an agnostic, is where I stand on the question of God. I would say I don't know, but I know a lot of people would say that puts me in the camp of atheism as well. And I'm fine. I like, evaluating religious content, especially stuff that I think is, like you said, is harmful, and explain why we ought to not listen to what they're saying. This will be fun.
And can you tell my audience where to find your channel?
Yeah, my channel is Zoe Vexed, spelled exactly how it is on the camera name right there. And just type it into YouTube, it'll pop up. I'm also on Twitter at Zoe Vexed with an underscore, I believe, between Zoe and Vexed. And I'm always down to talk or argue or have a discussion pretty much with anybody as long as they are not too toxic.
But that means you probably will not be having a talk with the person who created the video we will be reviewing today, because this one is terrible.
I don't know how toxic this person is as a human being, but some of the ideas I think that they are espousing definitely need to be challenged for sure.
And the video that we will be reviewing is I Just Believe in One Less God Than You by the World Video Bible School. And this is another one by the infamous Mr. Butt. Yes, that is his actual name, Kyle Butt. And this is the second time in the history of this show, the third time in the history of the whole channel, that one of his videos is being torn down. As a matter of fact, I believe that it was one of his videos that was torn down in the very first episode of Tearing Down Terrible Videos Together.
So you're saying that we have a whole lot of butt on the channel. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I am saying that. But without any further ado, let's begin examining this train wreck.
Do a quick search of YouTube for best atheistic arguments, and you'll get several videos that include popular atheists saying this in a nutshell: well, I just believe in one less God than you do.
Yeah, that often, of course, is a bit more difficult to use when discussing a Jewish apologist, because among Jews, there's that saying, that God that you don't believe in, I don't believe in either.
And there's also going to be commentary on this as far as polytheistic beliefs go. And I just want to point out, by the way, I just believe in one less God than you is not an argument. It's a statement. It's a statement of fact. When he says atheist arguments, and this is what he's attacking, it worries me that he's not really sure what an argument actually is. But let's hear him out.
Are you saying that he's straw manning us?
I mean, it's a possibility.
Okay, so let's go on.
What do they mean by that? Well, they rattle off a list of gods such as Zeus, Poseidon, Vishnu, Buddha, Horus, Apollo.
Is Buddha actually supposed to be a god?
Interestingly enough, Buddha is not a god. And there are, in fact, secular sects of Buddhism. And even on the theistic side of it, I believe they worship more of almost like a Spinoza's god, where they just think that there was a prime mover, but it does not interact with you and grant prayers and answer requests or anything like that. So that's just silly. And then Vishnu, interestingly enough, within Hinduism, is like a tri-omni-god, just like within Christianity. So it's just weird that he's going to say, well, you don't believe in, it's fine for y'all to attack this God, but however, we have the true God. All of these ones clearly false. Ours is the one real one. I would like him to establish an argument for that, not complain that we are not convinced of his God in the same fashion that he's not convinced of any gods of any other religions, which is the whole point of the statement, really. It's not an argument. It's just a statement.
Mm-hmm. And then they say something to the effect of, tell me why you don't believe in those gods, and I will use your very same reasons to tell you why I don't believe in your God.
Which is exactly so, because all he has to do in order to disarm this statement is to give a reason he has for not believing in one of those gods, which is not equally applicable to his God.
Right, and I like that he says in the quote, and I'll use your very same reasons. What he's complaining about here is literally logic. He's complaining about us using parity of reasoning and saying that by the same reasoning that you dismiss these other gods, and punchline, it's lack of evidence, is why he would say he isn't convinced of them. That's what atheists actually talk about, as far as generally speaking, why we are not convinced of these God claims. There's just a lack of evidence for them. Not that there's not adherents or believers or people will just tell you, you just have to have faith, you just have to believe it. What is the evidence for it? And yet, I'm sure by parity of reasoning, he's going to make a claim, something like, well, we just have the one true God, and the adherents of those other faiths could say the same thing. So it still doesn't move the goalpost 1 inch, even though he's desperately trying to.
The problem with this is it's not an argument at all. It's a neat little play on words, but when you look at it closely, it's not logical reasoning, or it's not an argument for anything.
You mean saying let's not use special pleading is not logical or reasonable?
And the fact that I just pointed out that it's literally a parity of reasoning is what we're talking about, parity of reasoning. So if I take your same framework and I apply your rationale and your reasons for why those gods don't exist, and say you can take the same reasoning and apply it to your God, yeah, that is a problem for him. And that would need to be addressed, other than him just saying it's just not logic. No one is claiming that this is the totality of logic, but there is reasoning in it. There is logic within why people are making that statement.
And here it says on the screen, the idea, just because there are many wrong answers, then all answers must be wrong. That is a straw man. What we are saying is, since there are many wrong answers, you should be able to show how a right answer is demonstrably different from all the wrong answers.
I would also say that just because you might have criterion to disqualify an answer doesn't mean that we cannot have a criterion for what would prove the claim. So just like we can falsify something, we know how to falsify claims. There ought to be a different standard for what would be a positive side of this. Like, what evidence would you have to prove this claim? And it's like, this is just confusing the fact that you can have a way to falsify something and a way to prove it, demonstrate it as separate criterion. I don't know why this is difficult for him.
Well, let's see.
The idea is just that because there are many wrong answers, then all the answers have to be wrong. In fact, the statement implies that this one less answer is just the next step in the sequence.
Again, still straw manning.
All right, and you could almost say this is like a slippery slope fallacy as well, because what he's saying is our claim is that because answers like 1, 2, and 3 are wrong, answers 7, 8, and 9 are also going to be wrong, and you're just extending this out on an infinite slope of wrong answers. And that's not what we are saying. We are saying, again, by parity of reasoning, that the same reasons why he would falsify other religions, gods, you can take the same rationale, apply it to his God, and end up disqualifying his God using his same criterion. That's what the complaint is.
And all he has to do to disarm this is to give one reason for dismissing one of the other gods that won't be just as applicable to his God. That's all he has to do.
Right. I would like to ask him, what compelling evidence ought we expect that his God has and the other gods don't have? I want that compelling evidence.
But hold on. If there is actually just one correct answer, then of course all the other answers would be incorrect. For instance, if a person were to say, you don't believe that 2 + 2 = 5 or 6 or 7 or 9, therefore 2 + 2 doesn't have an answer.
Again, anyone who knows that math knows what the answer is 2 + 2. If you have 2 oranges on a table and then 2 more oranges on the table, that doesn't make 5, 6, 7, or 9 oranges. That makes 4 oranges.
Right. I also like the fact that he's basically trying to use an abstract formula and putting a question, what is like 2 + 2? Well, it's a formula. We have reckoning. We all agree on the criterion for reckoning, and therefore we know 2 + 2 is 4, and we can demonstrate this. And numbers are abstract. Numbers are not supernatural objects. They are not supernatural claims. And his claim is a supernatural claim. So I would like the evidence that he's going to provide, because it's completely trivial to say that 2 + 2 is 4 in mathematics. They're just abstract concepts. If we agreed that numbers represented a different cluster of objects, then we could easily change what this statement says. It wouldn't change the nature of reality, but the language that we use when we're representing these different figures would change. It's not that it's not important. It has utility and value, and they're just an abstract measurement system and something that we use to model physics and create predictive models in science of the universe. I would like his God to have any explanatory power remotely close to what mathematics has.
Of course, you need to remember that Christianity is heavily influenced by Platonism, by Platonic thought, which is very good at muddying the distinction between abstract concepts and supernatural beings.
Of course, but I mean that's part of the strength of this type of system and rhetoric. If you have someone who's not familiar with philosophy and they don't know the difference between like an abstract object and something, the concreteness, like a concrete object, or if we're talking something like analytics versus synthetic, it's fine. You don't have to know all of this. All you need to take away from this is that I want to highlight when he talks about something, when he compares God to mathematics, that is a categorical error, because mathematics is simply an abstract set of ideas that we use to, it's a representation of physical objects. That's what we're using math for, or as a placeholder for just values. And it's just a rubric for reckoning. When it comes to God, we're talking about something supernatural and completely different than just a man-made construct that we're using to, again, represent values of physics, and, you know, that has value in science and mapping and measuring the universe.
And many times, religious apologists also, I notice, have a difficult time understanding the difference between ontological realities and axiological judgments.
Sure. And when we're talking ontology, just to be clear, we're talking about being, or what it means to be something, or the nature of a being. Bringing up mathematics and trying to compare mathematics to a god is silly, in my opinion.
See, I just believe in one less answer than you do. I think you see the problem. If there is a singular answer for, then the one less statement leaves out the most important answer. Now let's look at it from another angle.
By the way, I think it's debatable about whether Thomas Alva Edison really invented the light bulb.
I'm curious to see like where he goes with this, because he's building a house of cards. He's just telling you, he's just making claims. He's not disproving or proving anything. Now you could say that just because all these other answers are wrong doesn't mean that there's not a right answer to something, and he's using a formula or an equation. That's fine. No one disagrees with that. Again, trivial statement. I would like him to prove his supernatural claims, the claim that there's a supernatural being that exists and has a will and has desires. Notice that he hasn't even said the name Jesus Christ, because he's not going to support these statements. He's just going to try to attack this one statement that some atheists make. And again, it's not an argument. It's pointing out a parity of reasoning, but he can't understand that. And that's fine. That's his issue. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. Now thing is, the statement about Edison having invented the light bulb is an oversimplification at best. But I don't think it'll be very relevant the way he uses that example to go into that. I can show other problems with his example.
I can grant it. Like, let's just grant it. Let's just say Edison invented the light bulb. I'm fine with it. I want to hear the claims that he's going to build on this, because it's not relevant to me who made the light bulb, who invented it, right? Mm-hmm. I want his claims specifically about the light bulb itself, because we're going to run into problems very similar to what we just ran into with his last example. Spoilers.
Most important answer. Now let's look at it from another angle. When Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb, the story is told that he said that after trying 10,000 different filaments, he hadn't failed. He just found 10,000 things that didn't work in a light bulb. Now, suppose a person were to say, tell me why those 10,000 filaments didn't work, and I'll use the same reasoning to tell you why the one thing you say works won't. I just believe in one less filament than you.
Well, the problem here is very obvious. They experimentally tested those 1,000 those are their 10,000 filaments, and the light bulb didn't work the way it was supposed to. Then they did that same experiment on one other filament, and the results were different. That is the distinction. What?
It confuses me as well that he's talking about belief. Like, I believe in one less filament than you do, yet the filaments are an empirical thing. Like, when you're talking about these experiments, right? There's a physical object that they're experimenting with, and he's comparing.
Thing is, I have a reason to believe in that one filament that did work that I don't have to believe in all those other filaments, and that is that it actually passed the test that was given to it.
Right. It's because there's empirical evidence, right? And it's compelling evidence, as this one actually conducts electricity or allows electricity to pass through it. These other ones don't. So what was the falsification criterion? It doesn't channel electricity. It doesn't, light up. It doesn't work in the way that for the experiment we're trying to fulfill. And the other filament does meet all those criterion. It's so easy, and it's empiricism. It's a weird thing for him to root this idea of belief when it comes to empiricism, when it's something demonstrable. It's physical in reality. It's not just a belief.
Thing you say works won't. I just believe in one less filament than you. Well, again, I think you can see the problem. The characteristics of the filaments that don't work are obviously very different from the ones that do.
Yes, and there was a test to see which one did work and which ones didn't.
Right. And when he says the composition is completely different, what does that matter? We need the examples. If we had the empirical evidence, so we can evaluate the filaments that didn't work through time, again, through various testing, we can keep tweaking those properties that the filaments have until they worked correctly. I don't know why he would think that. Again, he's just attacking the statement. He's not proving his claim, which is that clearly his God is true, and we ought believe in his God, and it's a mistake not to believe in that God. He's offering no evidence whatsoever other than just complaining that people are using parity of reasoning to say, I can take the same reasons you have for not believing other gods, and I can apply that to your God too. His God is one of the other 10,000 filaments that don't work. Where are the answered prayers? Where's the magic healing? Where's anything demonstrable that his God, that he claims his God can do? Where is that at? And until we have that, it's another filament that he claims is a light bulb that doesn't work.
I have a spoiler alert. He will be using the Texas sharpshooter fallacy in the course of this video.
It's a popular one.
Yes, it may be true that atheists believe in one less God than the God of the Bible. But the fact is, no other God is the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good creator of life who came down to earth in human form and
all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good. And yet we have suffering and genocides and all kinds of stuff.
Right. We're almost to the omni claims, right?
He explicitly mentioned that he
believes so it is like
his God is tri-omni, which means that and a tri-omni God is the only kind of God that I can verifiably prove does not exist. I will agree other God concepts I find unlikely, but there's no doubt that the tri-omni God is not real. We just wouldn't have genocides. We wouldn't have had genocides. We wouldn't have plagues. We wouldn't have any suffering.
How about childhood cancer? Is that?
Oh yeah, we
wouldn't
have that we would not have that if their tri-omni God existed. I have in this channel gone over why the problem of evil is actually very airtight.
Right, but let's say, I'll grant him a hypothetical that he won't grant us. I could say he could claim that his God is maximally good, maximally powerful, whatever else. It would still be within his worldview then that a maximally good world must include all of those things that were listed above. And then you say, like, well, why is that? Why can't God do anything about this stuff? Why was this the best of all possible worlds? And they're going to end up saying mysterious ways. We can't know the mind of God. We can't know the will of God. Maybe, all these bad things have to happen to some people for there to be some goodness. It puts them in a weird spot of having to argue some of the worst things to happen to humanity and what we do to each other is a manifestation of this God's plan or this God's will. And on top of that, he keeps saying, well, you can just say, like, I believe in one less God than you do. And for someone like me, where I just say, I don't know if a God exists or not, all I would ask him is, like, I'm not saying that you're wrong by default. I'm asking, what evidence do you have? I'm not dismissing you. I want your evidence. And again, no evidence to support his claims. He's just going to keep making statements and bemoaning. And I like all of his claims that he's just adding. There is this omnibenevolent God. It is all powerful. And he's just going on and on and on. Oh yeah. And it incarnated itself.
Yeah,
as
we're
a
about
man.
just to get to we're about to get to that.
Right.
Yes, it may be true that atheists believe in one less God than the God of the Bible. But the fact is, no other God is the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good creator of life who came down to earth in human form and sacrificed himself for his human creatures simply because he chose to of his own free will. Yes, atheists believe.
See, that's where I talk about the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Because he's just arbitrarily taking the things that are specific to Christianity and stating that those are the criteria without doing anything to justify that those are the criteria. By that same token, you could say that Allah is the only God who gave the Quran through the archangel Gabriel to his prophet Muhammad. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, these are just claims. It's not even a criterion. He didn't say that a God must be all good, all powerful, must be the creator of everything, must have taken human form and then sacrificed himself to forgive everybody for his own plan. He didn't even say that's the criterion that would prove his God. He just stated that his God is that it is these things. And it's like, okay, well, if you can just by fiat claim that your God is, I can just by fiat claim that your God is not. And I would say it's not due to a lack of evidence. You can claim all day long that your God is the all-powerful, all-good creator of everything. I would like that demonstrated and not just claim it. And then I like the fact that now we're getting close to Jesus when he's like, incarnate himself as a man. What's the evidence that any of that is actually true? What's
the evidence that any of that is the criteria for knowing that that's the true God and not the other ones?
Right, or that it's any God. Like, why should we even follow his criterion for what a God is if he would even define it?
Yeah. But you see where I'm pointing out the Texas sharpshooter fallacy.
Right, because he's trying to say, this is what I would imagine if we asked him. He would claim that all of the properties of his God are the things that make his God uniquely true. Even if other gods share those traits, it's because he's drawing a bullseye around his religion and then saying that by definition, because he's the one defining the criterion, that his religion just coincidentally meets all of them, that he must have the one true answer, despite trying to dismiss other people with similar gods, as you gave an example of Islam, or if we gave an example of Judaism. Oh yeah, and ignore the Gnostics too. Don't talk to those people.
Simply because he chose to of his own free will. Yes, atheists believe in one less God, but it is that God and only that God who truly fits all the criteria to be the singularly correct answer.
Again,
Did you hear
Yeah.
that? What criterion? Where did he say this is the criteria? He just laid out claims, right? Did I miss that?
he just arbitrarily named the characteristics of his particular God as the criteria without in any way justifying that those are the criteria.
And I'm also going to take some. I'm going to take some fire here, and I'm going to aim at the fact that most Christians that I found, if they believe in like the Trinity, they worship three gods: the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and Yahweh are three distinct entities. And since he had his little math problem up there, I'm sure he would agree that 1 + 1 + 1 is 3, not 1. I don't know how he gets like off on saying that I believe in one less God that you do, while he's like, no, I have the one true answer, the one true God. In actuality, he should be saying, no, he has three gods, and you should be convinced of that. Now, I know that plenty of Christians are going to take an issue with that and feel like their theology somehow can square this circle, but it doesn't. They will never be able to argue to you that 1 is 3 and 3 is 1. They cannot demonstrate that logically, because if they are a Trinitarian, they believe that this entity has three distinct manifestations that they don't share the same body, but yet are all the same one unified triangle.
The three persons, one being. Although the Mormons actually do away with that and openly are worshiping three gods.
Right. And the thing is, when they say that, I always ask them, I always come back with this. I'm like, okay, so are you saying that God has something like dissociative identity disorder? Because like, newsflash, we have DID, and I have like 13 identities in one body. So am I one person or am I 13 people? And they would say that no, the difference is that God is three separate beings entirely, but yet is one.
No, three persons, one being. That's what the doctrine of the Trinity teaches.
Right, but if you ask them, are they all just one like person? Do they all? Because if you have a being like one existent body, then you have a mind, like a mind that attaches to that, and you could say that mind is identity. They don't think that Jesus and that the Holy Spirit are different identities. They think that they can operate completely independently. Like when Jesus is in flesh, Yahweh is still up in heaven, and the Holy Spirit is still ghosting around, getting into people and stuff like that. Like they don't think that they are a unified flesh, so to speak. It's a contradictory view, and in the history of it, the church used to argue that the Trinitarian view at one point was not considered the common view among Christians. And it's just interesting how their theology has evolved over time to spread that to their followers. So now they're mostly Trinitarians, and it's considered unusual if you reject this Trinitarian notion of a Christian God. It was just a side
there
comment.
are of course Unitarian Christians, not to be confused with Unitarian Universalists.
Right, and not to be confused with Gnostics or the agnostic.
Yes. There's the Unitarians who basically believe that Jesus was a Messiah but wasn't God, and that there's only one God in that sense. And then there are the Mormons who basically will say, yeah, we have three separate gods and everything.
It's very strange that thousands of denominations of Christianity all believe different things, including like on the nature of Christ. And yet they all have the claim to have the same one answer. It's just odd. I don't like the fact that they attack other religions that have like monotheistic beliefs or whatever, and act like those are just absurd. But there's is not. I have an issue with that. That's primarily why I think this guy's videos are harmful. They just claim by fiat to have the right answer, offer no criterion, no justification, no falsification. They just assert it. And they also act like we are immoral or bad people for not following their faith. And that is just a disgusting view.
And one thing I should note, one thing that pretty much all Christians have in common is that no single person who identifies as Christian is universally recognized as Christian by all others who identify as Christian. For instance, you ask a Catholic if the Mormons are Christian, the answer you will get is no. You ask certain evangelical fundamentalists if Catholics are Christian. The answer you will get is no.
Yeah, the Protestants, same thing. The Protestants and Catholics murdered each other in wars. They have torn countries apart with warfare over a disagreement about these beliefs. So this is not a settled thing within Christian theology.
Let's see if there's any more thing. Proving that I was not joking about what his name is.
You were correct, and he did in fact show his butt. That was a lot of fun, and it was a short little video. But man, you can put so much misinformation in one video, and it's sad that a lot of people are going to watch this and be convinced that he is reasonable and providing good reasons for defending Christianity or attacking atheism, whatever that means, attacking a lack of belief. Like, okay. Oh yeah, and hail Satan, by the way.
Hail Satan. Yeah. So, anyways, I appreciate you being here because tearing this apart with you is no doubt a lot more fun than it would be to tear this down by myself.
Yeah, and thank you for having us. We always like doing collab content, and it's always fun to come and talk about Christianity and I guess just religion in general. I like religion, I like philosophy, and if we ever do politics or trans issues, I will definitely be glad to come back and have a conversation about those too.
Now, one more thing about trans issues I want to mention. I'd like to talk about Alfred. Alfred is a trans person living in the southern United States, a place which is becoming increasingly dangerous for transgender people. He needs to get out of the southern United States. And so he set up a GoFundMe to get together the funds that he needs in order to get out. And so I understand if you don't have the money to help him, but if you do have the money, consider donating to his cause. You could very well be saving a life. And also, and anyways, that's his QR code on the screen. Anyways, I also would like to let y'all know about another charity called A Place for Marcia, which is a charity that's being started to help transgender people who are over the age of 18 but trapped in trans hostile states to get settled in safer states where trans rights are treated as human rights. So I have their QR code on the screen if you want to visit there and support them. But anyways, I need to mention one thing is the opinions of my guests on this channel are not necessarily my opinions, nor are they necessarily the opinions of my cat Amber, or of the monster hovering over my bed, or of the gremlin possessing my elevator. And for that matter, even my own opinions at the time of me making a video are not necessarily my own opinions at a later time.
I think that community support is a good thing, and let's get some donations and help people out if we can, especially with the slew of anti-trans legislation. And yes, my opinions are my own. You can always attack me on Twitter, or if you want to have a discussion about them. But I'll also respond to comments in this video as well if anybody takes issue with our arguments or any of the things that we discussed.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, thank you very much for being here, and until next time, see ya.
Bye. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having us. Later.
My pleasure.